God gave Adam to eat from not only the trees in the garden, but from trees over the face of all the earth, as we can see here in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29. And concerning the garden, we read in Genesis chapter 2 verse 16 that the Lord commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. But the devil narrowed the question specifically concerning the garden only. He wanted the focus to be in the garden. He did not care about the trees of the whole earth, but specifically the trees in the garden. He went directly to the main point. The question that the devil asked through the serpent can also be understood as, did God say that you must not eat from every tree in the garden? Or are there trees that you can actually eat from? And I believe that this is what the woman understood. And after listening to the question of the serpent, which actually came from the devil, the woman now responds. So let's pay attention to the woman now. It is very interesting to find the woman's response, though, because she responds with something that she claims God said, where in fact God didn't say. She responds, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, which is true. But in verse 3, she says that God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. She doesn't specify which tree. And you must not touch it, or you will die. God never said that by touching the tree you will die. God said you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat from it, you will certainly die. It should be noted that God spoke to Adam in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 and 17, and not to Eve. Eve was still a rib at that time. So either Adam did not do a good job at teaching the woman the exact words of God, or maybe he taught her this way because he was just trying to be cautious. But I have the inclination to believe that the woman replied on her own in this manner, and on purpose she replied this way. She was just being herself. In what sense, you may ask? Adam would always call his wife Eve because she was the mother of all the living. When did he start calling her by that name? We read in Genesis chapter 3, verse 20, and Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. But it was not then that he had started calling her Eve. I mean, it was not after the sin He used to call her Eve before the fall. How do we know this? When the woman was brought to Adam, he did the same thing he did with animals, that is, to give a name. And the Bible tells us that Adam said she shall be called woman. The same word for woman is also translated as wife. But woman and wife are her functions in relation to Adam. But her purpose was not only to be wife, but to be the mother of all living. And that is why Adam used to call her Eve before the fall, because she was indeed the mother of all the living from that time itself, the time that she was made. We will go in depth about verse 20 later. We will look at all the reasons why I say that he used to call her Eve before even the serpent came to deceive her. But why am I bringing this verse in relation to the way the woman responded to the serpent? What does being mother of all the living have to do with her response to the serpent? It is because of her name, Eve, mother of all living. It was her very nature. What am I talking about? She was responding according to her nature. She was acting like a mother. She was not at all thinking about the deception of the serpent, though there was the devil within that serpent. She was not looking at all that. She was innocent, but she was not stupid. She could clearly see the level of interest of the serpent in the trees. So it is my inclination to believe, to protect the serpent from eating out of curiosity and die, she used the fear of the Lord as a tool. That God did say, you should not even touch it, or else you will die. It should be noted that all the creatures knew that they could die. For the woman to say that if you touch, you will die, it means the serpent knew about dying. We should also note something important here, that there was a hierarchy that God had placed. The animals did not communicate with God directly. The animals could have asked God for their names, since God brought them to the man. But God respected hierarchy. And this is very important. Man was given the rulership over all the animals, the birds, and the fish, and over all the earth. Since the man was ruling over them, they were subject to him. The whole earth was subject to him. Later, Eve came out of Adam, and so she ruled with him too. So whatever Adam and Eve would tell them, that would be it. It was up to Adam and Eve how they would lead and direct the animals, the birds, and the fish. If we look carefully though, it looks like the creatures were subject to Eve now. With the coming of Eve, we don't see the animals talking to Adam. We don't see them talking to Adam again. But we do see the serpent talking to Eve. It was now an established hierarchy. The animals now did not go to the man, but to the rib of the man for any matter. That is Eve. The woman who came from the rib of the man had authority now over the business of the man. Just like the man who came from the dust of the earth now had dominion over all the earth. Man was taken from God and his body from the dust of the earth. So man was able to take from God and also from the earth. The woman came out of the man, so she was able to take from the man, and so she could take from whatever belonged to the man. Just like God was the source of Adam, so Adam was the source of the woman. So I have an inclination to believe that information would now pass down from God to Adam to Eve and to the rest. So the woman, being the helper of the man, was ruling as well, because she was made to rule. But we also find the woman as a teacher. She was teaching the serpent. But there is one aspect of the woman that the serpent had noticed, and so the devil, that the man would listen to the woman. She could convince Adam. Adam would listen to his wife because he loved her. The animals would not convince Adam, but Eve would convince Adam.